The morning sun poured through the kitchen window, painting the polished hardwood floor with warm golden streaks. Emily stirred her coffee, the rich aroma mingling with the soft hum of a radio playing in the background. It was the kind of quiet start to the day she cherished, a fleeting moment of peace in her busy life. But that tranquility shattered when the doorbell rang, its sharp chime cutting through the calm like a knife. Emily didn't need to peek through the window to know who it was. Susan Reynolds, the domineering president of the Homeowners Association, had a knack for showing up at the worst possible times. Her presence was as intrusive as a storm cloud. With a sigh, Emily set down her mug, wiped her hands on her apron, and trudged to the door. When she opened it, Susan stood there, arms folded tightly, her face a mix of irritation and resolve. Her immaculate blazer and perfectly styled hair screamed control, a walking billboard for authority. Emily braced herself for the inevitable complaint. "Good morning, Emily," Susan said, her tone sharp and clipped. "We need to talk about your Wi-Fi." Emily blinked, caught off guard. Susan's eyes narrowed. "Yes, it's interfering with my signal. My internet's been crawling lately, and it's disrupting my work. I have a critical video call tomorrow, and if this isn't fixed, I'll take it up with the HOA board." Emily stifled a laugh, the absurdity of the accusation hitting her like a bad joke. Wi-Fi interference? It was the most ridiculous complaint she'd ever heard. "I didn't even know there was a problem, Susan," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Are you sure it's our network?" Susan didn't waver. "I've done my research. I checked the signal strength, and it's definitely coming from your house. This is a serious issue." Emily glanced back into the kitchen, where her daughter Ava stood by the counter, a sly glint in her eyes. At 16, Ava was a tech wizard, far more adept with gadgets than Emily could ever hope to be. She had a gift for untangling problems, especially the digital kind. And Emily sensed Ava was already cooking up a plan. But nothing could have prepared her for what Ava did next. Susan stepped closer, her voice rising. "I don't know what you're doing over here, but you need to fix this. Change your password, reset the connection, whatever it takes." Emily held her ground, her patience wearing thin. "Susan, I haven't noticed any issues on our end, and I'm not sure how I can solve your internet problems." Susan was relentless, her face flushing. "I'm serious, Emily. If this isn't addressed, you'll hear from the HOA." Before Emily could respond, Ava's voice cut through the tension, clear and bold. "I already changed the Wi-Fi password, Mrs. Reynolds." Emily froze, her stomach lurching as she turned to her daughter. Ava stood there, a faint smirk tugging at her lips, her phone clutched in her hand. Susan's jaw tightened, her eyes narrowing to slits. "What do you mean you changed the password?" Ava stepped forward, unfazed, holding up her phone for Susan to see. "I changed it last night. If you want access, you'll have to ask me for it. I don't think you're entitled to our network, especially after all the complaints you've been dishing out." Susan's face turned scarlet, her composure cracking. "You did what?" she sputtered, stepping back as if Ava had physically pushed her. Emily's heart pounded, her mind racing to catch up with Ava's audacity. Her daughter had just thrown a match into a pile of dry kindling, cutting Susan off from their Wi-Fi and daring her to react. Susan raised her phone as if to call someone, but Ava's smirk widened. "Don't bother calling the provider. I secured the network. No one gets in without my approval." Emily's pulse thundered in her ears. Ava had escalated this into a full-blown showdown, and there was no going back. Susan's voice rose, trembling with fury. "You think this is a game? This is about property rights. I'm an HOA member, and you're violating neighborhood rules." Ava shrugged, her confidence unshaken. "You've been making everyone miserable with your complaints, Mrs. Reynolds. We're just setting boundaries. You've been using our Wi-Fi for months without asking. So, consider this a reality check." Emily's jaw tightened. She was proud of Ava's nerve, but she knew Susan wasn't just a nosy neighbor. She was a force, connected and unrelenting. This wasn't going to end with a slammed door. Susan stood there, speechless for a moment, her eyes burning with rage. Then she spoke, her voice low and venomous. "You think you've won? This is far from over. The HOA will hear about this, and you'll regret crossing me." With that, Susan spun on her heel, her shoes clicking sharply against the pavement as she stormed off. Emily watched her go, a sinking feeling settling in her chest. This was only the beginning. As soon as Susan was out of sight, Ava turned to her mother, her expression a mix of triumph and worry. "I didn't mean to take it this far, Mom." But she had it coming. Emily exhaled, her hands shaking slightly. "You went too far, Ava. Susan's not going to let this go. She'll come after us." Ava's confidence wavered, her eyes dropping to the floor. "I didn't think she'd react like that, but she's been bullying everyone for years." It felt good to push back. Emily didn't know how to respond. Part of her admired Ava's boldness, but she also knew the consequences could be brutal. Susan wasn't just petty, she was powerful, and she'd fight dirty. The quiet of their home returned, but it was a fragile peace, like the calm before a hurricane. Days passed, each one ticking by like a countdown to disaster. Emily couldn't shake the dread that Susan was plotting something bigger. Then one evening, as Emily chopped vegetables for dinner, her phone pinged with an email from the HOA. The subject line made her heart sink: formal complaint regarding Wi-Fi access and violation of HOA rules. Her hands trembled as she read through Susan's accusations, each word dripping with self-righteous indignation. The email demanded a hearing to address Ava's unauthorized password change and its impact on Susan's rights. Emily could practically hear Susan's smug tone in every line. A formal meeting was scheduled, and Susan had already rallied other HOA members to her cause. Ava wandered into the kitchen, sensing the tension. "What's wrong, Mom?" she asked, her voice tight. Emily set the phone down, her fingers running through her hair. "It's the HOA. Susan filed a complaint, and they're holding a hearing. This is getting serious." Ava's eyes widened, a flicker of fear breaking through her usual bravado. "She's really taking this to the HOA over a password? That's insane." Emily paced, her mind racing. "She is, and she's demanding penalties. We need to get ahead of this." The days leading up to the hearing were a whirlwind of preparation. Emily reached out to neighbors who'd clashed with Susan's overbearing rules, while Ava dove into the HOA bylaws, hunting for any leverage. They knew Susan's influence was strong, but they weren't alone. Other neighbors had grown tired of her tyranny, and Emily hoped their support could tip the scales. When the day of the hearing arrived, Emily and Ava walked into the community center, the air thick with anticipation. Susan sat at the head of the conference table, her expression cold and commanding. The room buzzed with HOA members, some sympathetic, others firmly in Susan's camp. Emily's palms were slick with sweat, but Ava's determined gaze steadied her. Susan stood to speak, her voice cutting through the room like a blade. "This meeting is about maintaining decency in our community. Emily and Ava's reckless actions, changing their Wi-Fi password without notice, have disrupted our harmony. This cannot stand." Emily clenched her fists, her anger simmering. Susan was twisting the truth, painting herself as the victim. When it was her turn, Emily stood, her voice steady despite her nerves. "Susan's accusing us of disrupting the neighborhood. But this is about privacy. She's been using our Wi-Fi without permission for months. Ava changed the password to protect our home, and we have every right to do that." Ava stood next, her voice firm. "Susan's been bullying everyone with her rules, from how we paint our houses to how we use our internet. We're not the problem, she is." The room fell silent, the tension palpable. Some HOA members shifted uncomfortably, while others nodded quietly. Then the door burst open, and Tom, a gruff neighbor with a reputation for speaking his mind, strode in. "Seems I got here just in time," he said, his voice booming. Susan's eyes narrowed. "Tom, this is a private matter. Leave." But Tom didn't budge. "Private? When you're trying to control everyone's lives? Not a chance." The room buzzed with renewed energy. Susan's grip was slipping, and she knew it. Desperate, she dropped a bombshell. "If I don't get that password back, I'll take this to court. I'll have the HOA disbanded if I have to. This isn't over." The threat hung heavy, silencing the room. Emily's heart raced. Susan wasn't bluffing. But before anyone could respond, Mrs. Larson, a quiet but respected HOA member, stood. "It's time we vote on this," she said. "The HOA is about community, not one person's control." The vote was swift, and Susan was removed as president. She stormed out, her parting words a venomous promise, "You'll regret this." Emily and Ava left the meeting victorious but wary. Susan's threat lingered like a dark cloud. Days later, as Emily sipped her coffee, her phone rang. A smooth voice introduced itself as Mark Thompson, Susan's lawyer. "Mrs. Bennett has filed a lawsuit against you and Ava for HOA violations and harassment," he said. Emily's stomach churned. A lawsuit over Wi-Fi? It was absurd, but Susan's vindictiveness knew no bounds. "Take this seriously," the lawyer warned before hanging up. Emily relayed the news to Ava, whose face hardened with resolve. "She's not getting away with this, Mom. We'll fight back." The next morning, a delivery arrived. A large framed photo of their house taken from the street, with a chilling message scrawled in red, "You think you've won? I'm watching, Emily's blood ran cold. This wasn't just a lawsuit. It was personal. Ava's eyes widened in horror. "This is harassment, Mom. She's gone too far." Emily nodded, her voice steely. "We'll stop her, Ava. Whatever it takes." The weeks before the trial were grueling. Emily and Ava met with their lawyer, gathered neighbor testimonies, and built their case. The courtroom was cold and formal, Susan's smug expression unshaken as her lawyer painted Emily and Ava as reckless troublemakers. But when Emily took the stand, her voice was clear. "We changed our Wi-Fi password to protect our privacy. Susan's been using our network without permission, and this lawsuit is her attempt to control us." Ava followed, her words sharp. "This isn't about Wi-Fi. It's about Susan's need to dominate everyone. We're fighting for our right to live freely." The jury listened intently, and Emily felt a spark of hope. The judge, calm and measured, promised a decision after review. As they left the courtroom, Emily and Ava felt a mix of exhaustion and pride. They'd stood their ground. But when they got home, Ava checked the Wi-Fi router and froze. "Mom, someone's tampered with our network again. The password's changed, but it's not Susan's name in the logs, it's someone else." Emily's heart sank. "This isn't over, is it?" she whispered. Ava's eyes were wide with realization. "No, Mom. It's just beginning." The battle had taken a darker turn. Susan's lawsuit was only part of a larger game, and someone else was pulling the strings. Emily and Ava had won a skirmish, but the war for their peace and their neighborhood was far from over.